is the 77 WABC minicast.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. My next guest is Tom Del Beccaro. Regular listeners of the More Money Show know that he is a regular guest, and we have him on all the time because he is an expert in politics. He is a best-selling author on politics, including my two favorites of his. He's written a number of books, but The Divided Era, and I want to talk to you about that one, Tom, but also a great book that all high school and college kids should read called The Lessons of the American Civilization. So Tom also had the thankless job of being the head of the GOP in California. Tom, thanks for joining.
Always great to be on, Steve.
Let's start with California. So California, I talked about this a little bit earlier on the show, but California was the big loser in the latest census data. I'm sure you saw that, Tom, that they're just bleeding people. It's very sad. I mean, California for the last 200 years has always added people, go west, young man. And now people are in droves leaving California, almost 3 million people in the last 10 years. That's a lot of people. What's going on?
Well, you talked to me about this 15 years ago in the late 90s.
But it's worse now.
when this started. And, you tweeted about it, and I quoted you, and I said, well, it turns out people and money go where they're welcome. And yes. California is not a welcome place for the middle class.
No, it is not. To say nothing of billionaires, right? Because they want to tax the hell out of billionaires now.
Yeah, which makes no sense. But for the middle class, with highest electric bills, yep, highest gas prices, highest housing prices, they just push people out.
Yes,
and so it's virtually a one-party state, and so they're getting away with this because the media doesn't hold them to account. And this burgeoning fraud story on spending is just is an example of why that occurs, because nobody's watching. And so even CBS ran a story now on the audits that they say the same things every year, which is that the government makes the same mistakes every year and just continues to fund and doesn't change its behavior. So California is a quintessential example of when people who have never been in the private sector go into government straight out of college, and they have no idea what they're doing except for to spend money.
So we've seen already a number of billionaires, including one of the founders of Google and some of the other iconic tech companies in Silicon Valley, getting on their pony and getting out of Dodge, out of California. Yeah. And no, there's no place by the way, probably on the planet that has more billionaires than California, but they're leaving.
Correct.
And you know this, I think you told me this, Tom, a number of years ago, but about half of the revenue that is raised in taxes comes from the top 1 or 2% of the taxpayers. So if they leave, who's going to pay the bills?
Exactly. I wrote a piece about this in Substack. 144,000 people out of 36 million pay half the income tax.
Oh, my God.
And they're very mobile.
Yes.
They are very mobile people. These billionaires can pick up and leave overnight. See, one thing that I try and tell people is we live in a different world. And in the olden days, when Ford put the whole auto industry in Detroit, there was geographical reasons for doing that. But there's nothing special about high tech being in California. They could do it anywhere. Wells Fargo is moving some of its wealth management division out of the state because, as New York proved, anybody can go to Texas and do finances. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing keeping these companies. Chevron leaving. Schwab broke his heart that he had to leave.
I know. So, I talked to Chuck about that, and he said, "I love California. I just can't." They were in San Francisco, right? And Schwab is out of there now.
Yeah. So the Democrats have this view going back to Jerry Brown. I remember his quote. He said they're not really leaving. They just stick their head in the sand. But the answer to your question is the middle class is going to pay these taxes because
there's nobody else to pay them.
Shrinks,
yeah.
Yes, because there's no one else left to pay them. And keep in mind, the budget has gone under Newsom has gone from $200 billion to $375 billion, and will over double in his term. And Steve, since we spent all this money, I didn't know if you noticed, but all the problems in California have gone away.
Right. So how are they doing on the, I don't think you live in California any longer now. I think you've moved to the East Coast, right? You're another one of those California exiles. But what is going on with one of our listeners asked me this question a few weeks ago, with the rebuilding of all those homes that were burned to the ground thanks to the incompetence of the government there in California. I've heard that very few of them have been rebuilt.
It is true, and it's mind-boggling until you dig a little deeper. The fact is that 2 homes have been fully rebuilt, and yes, there's many permits. 2? But 2 in the Palisades, yeah. It's ridiculous.
How many were burned down? Out of how many?
1,600 permits have been, but there's 16,000 buildings were lost.
And 2
it's ridiculous.
It's unbelievable.
But you know, what's amazing about this is, of course, Newsom's whining at Trump. It's his fault for not funding this $370 billion budget in California, but he won't fund it. But they haven't hired more people to deal with the backlog. Mm-hmm. Why isn't that? Why didn't they do a special budget to send people down there to deal with the backlog? You know what else needs to happen, Steve? There needs to be an insurance company summit in California where they sit down with insurance leaders, fire experts, and all of the things to figure out a better way forward. California is ground zero on the insurance crisis. Highest insurance rates, most cancellations. But no one does it. You know why? Because Gavin Newsom doesn't have that skill. He does not have the skill to bring people together and create consensus.
So, notwithstanding everything you've just said, Tom, the betting markets now have Gavin Newsom as one of the front runners for the Democratic Party in 2028. I know Gavin Newsom. Do you know him personally?
I haven't met him personally, no, but I must say I have followed him a bit.
Okay, you followed him for a long time. So I've met him a couple of times. He's very charming. He's very Bill Clinton-esque. You know, he never has a hair out of place. He's very dapper. And so that makes me nervous because, you know, oftentimes these elections, presidential elections, are almost popularity contests. Which of these 2 people do you like better? So he does make me nervous. I do think that he could be the next president, and yet his record is dismal.
It's atrocious. Yes. Well, I talk on my podcast, Politics and Perspective, which you've been on a couple of times. I talked to a veteran Democrat news reporter, Carla Marinucci. I think you know who she is. Mm-hmm. And she believes he's too far left for the country and that he's peaked too early. I think he's peaked too early, too. And if these fraud investigations, I think, would be perhaps the final straw, he'll still be popular. Because the most important thing running for president as a Democrat is that you argue with Trump. Well,
that's true.
He's poised to do that. But I think he's peaked early. It's so far away. Here you are, it's not the midterms, and now we're talking about the presidential race after that. So there's a lot to be decided.
So, Tom, good analysis of this. I want to change topics in our remaining few minutes. You wrote a book about the divided era. What is that?
Well, people talk about why there's so much fighting in politics. I was actually asked by a non-political friend, why is there so much fighting in politics? So I finally sat down and wrote a book on it, a significant book. And basically, we have to understand that every decision government makes picks a winner and a loser and someone to pay for it. They create a competition for spoils, competition for the parties, and a fight over taxes. So a government that does a few things has a few combatants, but our governments are spending $10 trillion a year now. Mm-hmm. And so the fight, our coliseums used to be where the action is. Now it's the halls of government. That's and we're at each other over everything. And we have got to understand that the bigger government gets, mathematically, the more divided we get and the more the parties get farther apart.
It's a great insight. I think you're precisely right that, back 100 years ago, we were fighting in Washington about small things and small amounts of money relatively. And now we're talking about, trillions of dollars. So this is all about the money. And I think for the left, especially because so many of the groups on the left are funded by government, that when you go after big government, you're going after their meal ticket.
Exactly. And John Fund told me, I don't know, miles ago, that he said, you got to remember, when the Republicans lose an election, they go back to work. When Democrats lose an election, they lose their jobs. Of work.
Yeah, no, that is 100%. John has told me that too, and it's absolutely true. I know it firsthand. People in my neighborhood, for us, we're bummed out if we're not in control. For them, they do lose their livelihood because their livelihood is government, and there's too many people in America today whose livelihood. You've got now nearly 1 out of 3 Americans whose jobs depend on big government.
At some level, including the contractors and everything like that.
Yes.
The problem with that is that it leads to less economic growth when government gets into the 30% of the economy and you throw in regulations into the high 40s, and half the economy can't support the other half and support themselves. So you get this low growth rate that prior to Trump, without Trump, we would have been below 2% nationally for the last 15, but Trump has bumped it up a couple of times. But we have to bring it back down, debt and all these things. But the Democrats don't care about that. They care about the next election. And the Republicans don't cut spending enough. They don't seem to care about the 2030s, which could be a dangerous time if we get debt over $50 trillion.
Amen. Last thing on the way out, just got a minute left, Tom. I went this week over to see Trump talk about these Trump accounts, which is putting money into accounts so that of young children. So when they turn into teenagers and start their working life, they have money in these accounts they could use to start a job or to start a business or to buy a house. What do you think?
Well, part of me wonders how much the taxpayers have to fund other taxpayers' behavior, and when is that going to end? On the other hand, we don't teach even the most basic economics to kids anymore. And if this is a entree to doing that,
good point.
It could be a really good thing.
I agree entirely. Well put. Tom Del Beccaro, thank you so much for coming on. You're a good friend and good friend of the show. And he is the author of 2 great books, including The Divided Era. And I think your latest book is The Lessons of the American Civilization, which is fantastic too. Folks, this is the More Money Show, and we will be right back.
Demo, not for broadcast. Property of WABC New York.
If you're thinking about changing schools, why wait? At Manhattan University, love those guys. You don't have to start over. With transfer-friendly pathways, your credits count, and you keep moving forward. From day one, you're part of Jasper Nation, preparing for the real world. And with New York City just a train away, opportunity is everywhere. Ready to move forward without missing a step? Visit manhattan.edu/transfer and enroll today. Manhattan University. Don't start over, move forward.